Hello, I'm Julie Kay, and I'm here to talk about shame today, what it is, how it affects us, to help you identify whether you struggle with shame. It's a very common problem in humanity, different but similar to rejection or issues of rejection. And it's deeply personal. It affects our behavior, our belief system about ourselves, our relationships, our self-esteem, and so many things about us. So I hope you will join me today to either share in the comments about what you think shame is or how it's affected your life, or be able to maybe realize you do have shame issues so that we can get help with it and work on it and eventually get over those issues, because I believe we can. There is hope for that. And this also leads into other mental health conditions. So I want to expound on the definition that I found with AI and online, which is new, well, not totally new for all of us, but just when I looked up the one definition of shame and then a shame definition in a book that I'm reading, it was more about our behaviors and more similar to really what guilt is, and I knew that difference. I knew that shame and guilt are two different things, and I remember reading it in a book a while ago. I don't remember what the book was, but it opened my eyes that guilt is more of what we did, our behavior or our actions that hurt others or that we think did. Guilt is more about something we did. Shame is more about how we perceive us, what we think about us. So guilt could be said as you did bad, boy you did bad, and shame is you are bad. That's more of the difference between the two. So I'm saying that right off the bat. But so when I looked at the general definition that popped up now on Google, which is AI, I know they're two different things. I don't know how that works together, but it really expounded more on it, and I really liked what it was saying because it's more of the truth that I've seen of what I believe shame is and how it's really impacted my life. And I believe God even showed me this just in the last week or so, that I still have roots of shame in my heart and my life and in my belief system about myself. And I want to get over that. So I'm here to learn together with you, for us to learn together. I'm in this boat together. And we need to know that we're around people who have struggled with it too and understand, but believe and are working on overcoming and in changing those things that may be really a core part of what we believe about ourselves. But they don't have to be. They don't have to remain forever as a core belief system. And that's part of what shame is, and part of what this definition reveals, is that we think it's an innate part of who we are. But the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And he's a liar. And he's an accuser of the brethren. He's an accuser of everybody. He lies to every person on this earth. If you're a believer in Jesus, he lies to us too. And he tries to accuse us, and even more tries to get us to believe the lies so that he can stop us from following God and loving God and, all that he would like to stop us from, which is a lot. So I'll just stop that part with that. But I want to start reading this definition, and then I'm going to kind of expound on it as I read it. So it says, it is a powerful, painful emotion characterized by a feeling of personal inadequacy or worthlessness. Often, now this is where the normal definition of what people think shame is, but I like this because it says often stemming, but not always. Okay? And I think that's very important, because if you only believe shame has to do with terrible things like sexual abuse, molestation, being bullied, etc., things like that, they're all bad. It's terrible. And definitely people that have gone through that usually have shame in their life and struggle with shame. But it's important to know that some of us maybe can't bring that back to a certain action we did or didn't do, but somewhere shame entered in, and we really do think it's just a part of who we are, irregardless of things we've done or not done. But this says, often stemming from a perceived failure to meet social standards or internal expectations. And I added into that, wrongdoing that's unforgivable. Sometimes it's just a wrongdoing that the people around you, not everybody necessarily, but think it's a wrong that can't be forgiven or shouldn't be forgiven, or you deserve to be singled out for that wrongdoing or that difference in who you are. So we really can go on and on about this. So this may become a series right now, another series for me. So if you think of anything to address with shame specifically, or a certain resource about it, please let me know, because I believe this needs to be really looked at. And this can relate to grief, just so you know, because if you lose a loved one and you already have serious shame issues or deep shame issues, whatever you want to say, okay, and then you attach it to maybe feeling partially to blame, or that you didn't do enough right, so you have all these regrets, which is very normal to have guilt and regrets and unforgiveness towards yourself, etc., condemnation towards yourself because of what you didn't do or what you did maybe that you think contributed to their death, right? So that just makes it even worse. So that's why if this is something you're dealing with and you're dealing with a life-changing loss, you need to get help for both, because it's going to exasperate your grief and your painful or negative feelings and experiences from the grief, the shame that you already have. And then you can go and, apply that shame and or guilt towards the loss, towards the surrounding circumstances of that loss, what have you. So that is why I'm exploring this. And plus, I really am about mental health and all around health anyway. So I believe that God wants me to venture off into some other topics here that we all struggle with, a lot of us struggle with. So then it goes on to say it's a negative self-evaluation where one believes there's something inherently wrong with them as a person, with themselves. In comparison to most people, I added that little bit on to the definition. In comparison, because that's the thing, when we compare ourselves to other people, all the more we either, and I've said this in a video about comparison, because I have a separate video all about that, how we should avoid comparing ourselves to one another and to other people. Because what it ends up doing, as I said in the video, is you either think too well of yourself or too low of yourself. Automatically, you're going to do one or the other. If you're comparing yourself to someone else, you're either going to think too high of yourself. Look, I was so much better. I did so much better with that. Look how they must, whatever. Or, oh, man, I could never do that. I could never be that. We either tend to go think too high or too low of ourselves, is the way I say it. So in comparison with others, people, I think, is a big way we're going to think something's wrong with ourselves. Okay, and then it goes on to say, this feeling of being flawed can lead to, my kitty cat's behind me if you hear her snoring. This feeling of being flawed can lead to different negative consequences such as low self-esteem, isolation, which is a no-no for grief, as we've talked about, mental health challenges, and that's what it said. And then I added on in my notes, because I rewrote this in my own notebook, and that's what I'm looking at, definitely can lead to anxiety, fears. Fear and anxiety go together, and, having insecurities and low self-esteem definitely can lead to more anxiety issues. And I definitely had anxiety, and I still do. We all can at times, but I definitely had more serious issues with that in the past. And then I wrote down rejection, because if you've experienced rejection, shame can be a part of that. So you could say they're sisters or however you want to put it, rejection and shame. Because I knew I had rejection issues, and I've known that for years. But I think the shame is becoming more clear now, that that's part of what I've ended up adopting into my belief system about myself and ways. And I don't really want to, but I do. So I want to overcome that, and I hope you do too. So this today is just about establishing what shame is, and then I'm going to go on to more how we can help our shame. So this is just that today, because we have to know what the problem is. Just like I've said in many videos, we got to be able to accept, we got to be able to identify, recognize, realize the problems we have inside of us before we can get help, before we can help ourselves. So that's what I'm doing, is that kind of bringing some realization and definition and different ways of wording it so that we get it and go, oh, that's shame. Okay, so another thing it said was it's about feeling bad about oneself or one's self-worth. It's about feeling bad about oneself or one's self-worth, not just about a specific action. So again, here's where the difference between guilt and shame come in. I don't tend to struggle with guilt a lot for whatever reason. I could. I think it's more been shame from my family, because not that they wouldn't say I've done some things wrong, but it's really not about my outward actions tons of times, and I don't even know where it comes from. I've learned some things recently that help me with this, but I really don't understand it. Like now that I've gotten more free and think of myself more the way Christ sees me, the way God sees me, and taken on my self-image and my identity and owned it more of who I am in Christ and who I am, who he says I am. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and I'm more than a conqueror through Jesus who loves me. The more I've done that, the more I've been able to see for what it is, but I still don't get it. And I don't know if I'll ever understand. I have an older brother and a sister. My brother's 8 years older than me, and my sister's did I just say 8? My brother's 6 years older than me, and my sister's 8 years older than me. So I was an oops baby, loved, but there's some things with that, even being a later oops baby, if you want to call it that. But I've definitely felt that, especially from my sister and my brother too at times. And my parents allowed it and didn't stop it and didn't teach them or all of us not to. So it's not so much that my parents instilled it big time into me. It's more of what they didn't teach not to do and what has happened as a result. So because I don't see a lot of bad things I've done, and I try to do what's right all the time, nobody's perfect. I would say with my words is my biggest problem, my mouth, like a lot of us. But it can't be pinpointed on a bunch of actions I did, but that's why I've internalized it more as shame. So maybe that helps you. So another thing it said was it's a deeply personal experience. Shame is a deeply personal experience where people internalize negative beliefs about themselves. Perceived flaws are viewed as inherent parts of their identity. So that's deep stuff that doesn't get changed easily, but can be changed. So that's why I want to hopefully expose a little bit on some of my viewers. And I do thank you very much for being a follower of my channel. If you're not a true follower and you just happened upon this video, I hope that you will subscribe and hit the bell so that you can follow my videos. I only do 2 a week. I've been encouraged to do more than that. Maybe one day I'll get more shorts out on top of that. So I'm not bombarding you with videos. And my videos are usually about 15 minutes long, which that's about where we're at now here. So I'll be wrapping this up in a second. But the topics that I bring up are very real and very common to people. The grief, this is shame today, and so forth. So I encourage you to watch and share it out. And I know my style and who I am is not going to be right for everyone, but I do believe and I do want to be a blessing to as many people as I can. So thank you. Please share this video out if you think it could help somebody else. But one more statement that I have down here is shame is about yourself, whereas guilt is about the action. And I kind of already said that. So it's, dealing with something we did wrong or messed up on. I don't like that at all. And we can beat ourselves up over the head, or others can. And we can never live that down potentially all our lives. So it can be a huge thing, right? Depending on what it is and those around us and what we do with it. But shame is even bigger in a way, because it is, again, an inherent belief about yourself. And it affects a few things that I'll go into more next time, but it affects your ongoing behavior with things like you tend to hide, physically hide, maybe not literally, but you tend to hide. How that looks, we'll talk about more. You tend to hide. I tend to hide from relationships or intimate, or wondering if I can have intimate female relationships especially. And so you tend to hide and you tend to isolate. Okay? Those are a couple ways of putting it. If you think of others, please comment. So it definitely affects our behavior, affects our relationships, could affect our jobs, our goals. And okay, here's why it can affect our goals, our dreams, whether we even have dreams, whether we have hope for our own lives. Because it also affects our belief system about ourselves, which is what I have already touched on. But that is a huge thing, okay? So it also affects our belief in God. So Adam and Eve, I'm not going to go into the whole story, but when they sinned, because that's a whole part of the story, that they both sinned, right? Eve and then Adam, and they both did it. When they did, they immediately were afraid of what God was going to do. They were afraid of his reaction, his response, and they hid. Okay? So I just want to mention that as part of our definition. And you can get into Genesis 1 with that. I think it's 1, or early in Genesis. All right? But it affects that, and as a result, it affects what we believe can happen with our lives. And it's definitely affected me with that. I don't think people with shame have as many goals or as much confidence to go forward and be able to do whatever they want to do in this world. There's more there's more problems with that. There's more things that hold us back with vision and dreams and goals. So that's what I wanted to share today that came up. And I thank you for joining me. And please join me next time to talk more about shame. All right. God bless you. I'm Julie Kay, helping you find your way through grief and loss. Bye-bye.